Well, welcome to another episode of Insurance Gone Wild. I am your host, Dennis Settlemeyer, and my co-host is
Stephanie Lencioni.
Right. We are here today, as we are every day, every time, to talk about insurance.
Yes, I love it.
So we're going to kind of get started a little bit quicker today than what we normally do. And we were talking off camera, hey, what if we talked about this today? Because that's the way we work, last minute, because we're busy, right?
Busy, yeah. Just flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, pretty much.
No,
pretty
love
much,
that,
yeah,
love that.
pretty much. But just kind of talking about how do you make a claim?
Yeah, so...
Or claims in general. Just claims in general.
Yes.
The process.
So something has happened. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So we've got a couple... And it's different for each type of claim.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest one in the North Texas area is...
Wind and hail.
Wind and hail, baby. So what do you do? I will tell you. So just keep this in mind for sure. And one thing when I was doing a lot more home and auto and when we were you go to quote and do all the things and they're like, oh no, I haven't made any claims. Because you go through the questions. Have you made any claims in the last 3 to 5 years? On your homeowners. Oh no, not at all. No problem. Well, what happens? You put it in, boom, you find a claim.
Mm-hmm.
And then you call and you're like, hey, well, did you make a claim on your water heater back 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Can't tell you how many times something like this happened. And I'm like, well, I see that it's $0 paid out. So do you recall this at all? Or do we need to dispute it?
Yeah. What we'll hear is, we called our agent or we called the company and sent somebody out. They decided, it was underneath our deductible. So they didn't pay anything out. Okay, no problem. Or we decided we were going to pull it back and we don't want to do the claim now.
Okay, so
what happens
that
then?
happens. But what I also have gotten, not even, hey, I wanted somebody to come out and look at the damage. It was truly clients who would call the insurance company and say, hey, well, this happened at our house. And we're just wondering if you have any recommendations on someone that is trusted, who's trusted that we could use. Not looking to make a claim or anything. The problem with that is as soon as you call that 800 number, they have to log it. And now they have to mark it as a claim, even though it's not anything that's been paid out. It's a claim. There is record of it because now they're trying to use that for numbers for frequency and just all the other different things. So,
they can't even put notes in the system. They can't answer questions, or whenever you call in and it's not an existing claim.
Number. Yeah.
Well, if you call the 800 claims number, it's automatically going to create a claims number, and it's going to generate it. And whether you decided to go through with it or not, that's a claim.
Yep.
Which then gets reported to companies that track that and sell that data back to insurance companies.
Yes, and that will affect your rate.
It will.
And then by the time something happens when you do actually have to file a claim, now instead of having one legitimate claim, you now have 2 claims on your record.
Correct.
And with water damage specifically, those are bad. Like anything claimed as water damage it's a really bad thing for that. So what we want people to do instead of calling the 800 number again, unless it is an emergency situation, but call us, right? Call us and say, hey,
call your agent.
Call your agent, right?
Call your agent.
We are the agents. That's the only time I'm going to touch that mic. But yeah, so call us first. Hey, because number one, part of our job, part of what we do and how we've built our business, and I'm sure other agents have done the same thing as well, or at least I hope they have, but it's building relationships with tons of other people and tons of different contractors and industries. And number one, to be able to exchange business back and forth, and then also specifically to help our clients. So when these things happen, knowing that we're doing home and auto and everything else, we need plumbers, we need HVAC, we need electricians, we need all of those good people that can be trusted to say, oh yeah, Mr. Client, Mr. Mrs. Client, please call, here are a couple, we're not telling you, we're not dictating who to use, but, and then it's just having the conversation. By you calling us, we can have, hey, let's send our guys out there. Whether you use them or don't use them, why don't we send our guys out there? They can at least give you a ballpark of the damage. And And then is it worth it to make a claim? So if you have a $3,000 claim or $3,000 deductible and they're coming back and saying the damage is only $4,000, yes, it's above your deductible, but now it's your call. Is it worth making a claim?
Sure. You got to weigh the pros and cons.
Yeah. And maybe it is.
Yeah. Maybe you don't have the 3,000. Maybe you don't have the 3,000. Well, then make the claim.
Well, the extra 1,000, because at that point they've got their deductible.
Oh, okay. Correct.
But
correct.
Yes,
I understand what you're saying.
Yes, I'm sorry. But
no, you're right. I mean,
but in their ballpark, right? It's in their court now. And then if they also, I mean, more importantly, they come back and they're like, oh, that's about, I don't know, $1,800. Well, awesome. So I'm not going to see a penny from the insurance company and I'm going to get dinged. Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't want. So
yeah, we don't want that.
It really is. So wind and hail, call your agent. Most likely they have roofers and different contractors that they recommend and they trust and everything else. So just call us first, essentially. So storm blows through, and that is when they're like cockroaches.
Who's like cockroaches?
Roofers. Well, sometimes clients. I'm not going to lie, guys. No, I'm just kidding. No, but they do. So the storm blows through.
Clients
and they know,
are fine. They don't know what to do.
No.
So.
But so it comes through, roofers come out, and then boom, boom, boom. They will knock on doors. They'll do all the things. And that's not bad. Like, I don't even have an issue with that because quite honestly, I've built some of my business based on door knocking. And so I don't even knock the door knocking. What we are saying though is, and I will tell you with hailstorms, just because your neighbor, now the likelihood of if your neighbor is getting a new roof, then yes, you probably got hit as well. But I am here to tell you, it can hit one side of the street and it doesn't have to hit the other side of the street. So we have sent my trusted roofer out and he has literally looked at 6 houses, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. They weren't completely in a straight line. I mean, they were all in the same area, probably within a 10 house closeness, right? 4 of them, he was like, 4 of you guys got hit. And the other, for whatever reason, like it just didn't happen. I mean, you think about a tornado path, it can jump and it can hit, which is the same thing with storms. So it's just, you just want to be smart about your claims. We had somebody where recently it was a client of ours. We sent this specific trusted roofer out and he was like, oh, you don't really have damage. You've got a couple shingles that need to be replaced. No big deal. He ended up going with a different roofer, which was fine. He calls 6 months later and is like, I made the worst decision ever and I went with somebody else. And they just said, oh, you can make a claim. It's no big deal. The roofer did. And he's like, now I just got hit by another storm that happened 2 months later. My retaining wall is knocked down. My fence is knocked down. My this is knocked down. My roof is destroyed. I have a leak in the house. And now I have 2 claims within 2 months. Like that. So you just want to make sure.
And if you don't get canceled, which you probably won't, but if you don't get canceled, you can't go anywhere else. You're stuck.
You can't go anywhere else.
You're stuck.
But who's to say those are the only claims that have happened?
Well, let's just say it's just those claims.
Well, sure. So
you're stuck with that company.
You're stuck. So
for 3 years.
Yep. And so again, our whole thing here is how do we help you make better decisions? How do we help protect you in the insurance world? And then also kind of from yourself. We don't want to 800 number. There's going to be a time and a place for us to encourage you to call that number. It's not right away.
Yeah. I want all my clients to call us, because, if they say, well, of course, we usually know in Dallas, Fort Worth, when there's a hailstorm, like, well, we need somebody to check our roof. Our neighbor had their roof checked, blah, blah, whatever it may be. Okay. Well, do you know a roofer? No. Well, let me send you a couple of names.
Right.
And give them a call. Tell them what you got. We know these roofers are going to shoot you straight. And there's a lot of good roofers out there. But we know these roofers are going to shoot you straight. If you have damage, they're going to tell you. If you don't, they're going to tell you. Whatever the answer is, the answer is. But the thing is that we want them to... read that. We want them to call us so that they don't have to call that 800 number, which is what you've been getting at for the last 10 minutes.
We want to make sure if we call by the time we call that 800 number, it's time to make a claim.
Yeah.
It's now from there, does the insurance company do what they're supposed to? And I will tell you, it is a little bit iffy these days. I mean,
Yeah, that's another story.
It's a different conversation, but again,
we can talk about that.
Not right now.
No, not right now, but later on we can talk about that.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I think in our podcast, it sounds like we're taking up for the insurance companies. We're not.
No.
We're just telling people how it works.
Correct.
But there are times where we can tell you about things that didn't go quite as smooth as what it should have. And there is remedies for that. But any case, go ahead.
Yeah. Or attempted in some cases. So, and yes, that's for your homeowners and for your business. If your business has, you can have, if you've got property damage on your business, some people rent their property so they don't have to worry about it. But if you own the building and things like that, then it's also with your business. If just any roof.
So let me play the client and ask you just a couple of questions. If I have a roof claim, let's just say specifically roof right now.
Okay.
If I have a roof claim,
getting aggressive.
I'm pointing that at you now.
I don't mind it. Yeah. Not the first time I've had something like that. Look at me.
Yeah. But if I have a roof claim and I have a roofer come out and they say, well, it's going to cost X amount to put you a new roof on, you need a new roof. Do I have to get 3 bids? Because I've heard I have to get 3 bids.
Okay. Yep. So here's how that works. Typically, and it's going to depend, number one, on the size of the storm, how big of an area and how catastrophic was it. I mean, if it is deemed a cat claim, which in North Texas, we do get quite a few of those.
Catastrophic claim, catastrophic event.
Yeah, it hits such a large area so badly. I mean, where they're sending in people from out of state and different things. And so if it's that big of a deal, what a lot of carriers will do or can do. So one of two things are going to happen. Number one, the insurance company is going to send out an adjuster, which at some point they will. And then they'll either, whether it's a third party adjuster, someone that they've hired who doesn't work specifically for the insurance company, or somebody who works for the insurance company, they will either say, okay, yes, this is the damage, and they will write up their own estimate. And then once that estimate is provided, the roofer, the contractor, regardless of any quote you may have gotten previously, by law, that contractor has to go, well, I say that, the contractor has to go off of that estimate.
That the adjuster came up with?
That the insurance company came up with, or they have to, if theirs is cheaper, when they send their final invoice, but you can't net a difference and say, hey, I got a $30,000 estimate from my insurance company and I have a $22,000 estimate from my roofer. I'm going to claim the $30,000 and get all of that. And the roofer is only going to charge me $22,000.
Can't do that.
That you cannot do. Now, if the roofer only wants to charge, exactly. If the roofer wants to only charge the 22, then that's going to be the final invoice. And then the insurance company will pay the 22. Less deductible. So let me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then just 2 seconds. And then the other option, just very quickly, and then ask that follow-up question, is, again, depending on just how swamped they are and what the insurance company is willing to accept, they'll just say, hey, have you picked a contractor? Well, yes, we have. Wonderful. Have them send us an estimate.
Correct.
And write up an estimate, and then we'll review it and go from there. And then sometimes they'll nitpick. We've actually had where the roofer, the contractor, sent in an estimate and they upped it. And they're like, oh, well, here's the sufficient pricing for it. And then many times they come back and they either approve or they're like, nah, we're not going to pay for this. But then the contractor and the insurance company work together, figure out what the cost is, and then boom. And then you're not responsible for anything other than your deductible. Or if you have a replacement cost roof. I'm not going to get into the ACV stuff right now, but keeping it clean. And what was your follow-up question? I'm sorry.
So I'm going to do to you what you do to me.
Ah, crap. No telling where this is going right now, folks. There's no telling.
So do I have to get 3 bids?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for following up.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying the 2 different things that could happen.
The 2 different things that could happen, but the answer is no, you don't have to get 3 bids.
You know what? Next time I'm going to answer like a man. Ask me another one. I got this. I'm gonna do a man answer next time.
I told you I was going to do to you what you do to me, because that's what I do. I go, I circle and then, here's where we're at.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, you did what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah.
I see you. Coming in hot today, folks.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't have to get 3 bids, which is good because I don't have time for that.
Who does? No. And
Now you can talk to 3 roofers or contractors. You may not like the first guy you talk to. You may not feel like there's a good trust level there. And the second one, they're all right. So I'm going to do a third one. I like the third guy, or I like the second guy the best. But you don't have to get 3 bids.
no. Yeah. And
Because the insurance is going to pay what the insurance is going to pay, right? If you're going to make a claim.
yes.
Now you can do supplements and stuff
That
like
was
that.
my man response.
There you go.
Yes. Right? Like
That's not my response is,
No, I know. So
because we talked about that before.
Someone's got to be the man, Dennis.
That's right.
Jesus.
Because we talked about that whenever I came in. You're like, yeah, Dennis,
Like, keep it clean. keep not clean,
keep
clean,
it-
but like
what was the word? Keep it
neat. Well, it
neat,
was,
basic or something, because I get into the weeds.
Keeping it simple.
I get into the
Keeping
weeds.
We're kissing it, baby.
Because I want my clients to understand everything. So I get into the weeds a little bit, but yeah. But, yeah, you don't have to get 3 bids. That's correct. And, but pick a contract that you like, you trust, and go from there.
And I would say especially with a roof claim, and here's what I would say too. If you don't have an agent that you're comfortable calling, I'd get a different agent. If you're not comfortable picking up the phone and saying, hey, this just happened, get a different agent. Or if you went online and you don't have an agent, I would call an agent. Don't just call for free advice. And that's another topic too, where how many times do we get phone calls from people? And this was probably more so years ago and everything. They're like, hey, I have a couple questions. So can I get advice from you? Okay, great. I'm going to go back over here and use the same person I've been using for the last 10 years. I don't trust their answer to the question I've just asked you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep my
That
business
happens.
elsewhere.
That
It doesn't.
happens,
No, that's fine.
So what
okay,
if
so that's hail.
we're talking about wind and hail, but let's say that I got a hole in the roof. What do I do then?
Yep. So
I've got something that needs attention immediately. Do I call the agent? Who do I call?
So at that point, I still would. Now, if you have rushing water and it's damaging the inside of your home, we need to call a restoration company. But at the same time, I would very quickly still be trying to call an agent or contact the agent, because again, we know good contractors that could potentially get out there, right? Like that's. So in that case, yeah, you can still call us. And at that point, what happens is the contractor's going to tarp your roof, which just basically means they're going to patch the hole. As well as they can, they're going to patch the hole.
Temporary patch.
Temporary patch. Now, who patches your hole? That does not mean that you have to use them for the roof replacement.
Correct.
However,
Doesn't mean you can't use them.
doesn't mean you can't use them. But there are some people that are like, well, this other guy already came out and patched. That's not a contract. They patched your hole. Now, when it comes time for people to get paid for things, they did a service. They need to be included in that payment, and the other contractor doesn't. But that's not just saying, oh, well, they patched a hole. Like I said, I get the whole roof.
And that happens where people have a friend or somebody that is a contractor, a roofer, whatever it is, and that friend can't get over here to fix something. They're like, hey, just call somebody, have them come out.
Just call anybody else to come
and
out
then I'll
patch
deal
it.
with it later.
Correct.
That happens.
Right.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with
But
that.
again, or somebody you didn't know anybody anyway. And then once you talk to them in daylight, not under duress because you have water gushing in your home.
Oh, true. You're like, I don't know.
Don't love that.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. So again, you're not married to him at that point.
So if like I had my very first client ever in the insurance business,
Oh, very exciting.
Mrs. R, let's call her Mrs. R.
Okay.
I don't want to say her name. Mrs. R went out of town. And when Mrs. R came back, she had 3 inches of water throughout her entire house
That's what we call a bad day.
because her toilet had backed up somehow and it flooded the home, and she'd been gone for a week. So
Happened to my aunt and uncle.
did Mrs. R call me first? No, Mrs. R did the right thing. Let's call somebody, try to get this water turned off, whatever we got to do, and start working on this process. Mrs. R had coverage for that particular event, and it got taken care of. And all Mrs. R was out was her deductible. The insurance company picked up the rest. So, but to this day,
I just did that too.
to this day,
think
Mrs. R has been the most difficult client I have ever had out of the thousands of clients.
Oh, that's why we're not saying her name.
Yes.
Okay.
And she was very, very difficult. Even though she had a couple of claims and the insurance company paid, there was no issue with the
Right.
claims. It wasn't even the claim she was complaining about. She was just that personality. So she was a complainer.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, having said all that, if you have an immediate need, get it taken care of. Because in reality, the contract, the policy, which is a contract, states that you have a responsibility
To mitigate damage.
to mitigate damage, meaning that minimize damage. So if you have an open roof and it hasn't gotten to your furniture yet, but you know it's going to, you have a responsibility to try to move the furniture.
Yeah.
Now, if it's pouring down rain and lightning and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to expect you to do that.
Again, within reason. and
Yeah,
everything
within
else.
reason.
And more so, I'll state a little bit more of an obvious example. If you get hit with a hailstorm and you have a hole in the roof and the water is coming through, and you're like, man, that is bad. And then the event is over, and then 2 days later it rains
Another
again.
one.
It rains again, and you haven't called anybody to tarp your roof.
Then you might run into an issue.
That is going to be a problem, folks.
Yeah. So what do? Well, they're telling you, take your stuff. If you either move it or put it in storage. If you put it in storage, they'll pay for that.
Yeah,
Insurance company will pay for that.
My big thing is you got to tarp the roof. You have to mitigating the damage at that point is obvious. Well, you need to call a water company if you do have water in the house, and then we have to close the hole to make sure more water doesn't get in. I just don't want to scare people with the moving of furniture. We're not trying to say that you're supposed to be a moving company. And I mean, my parents are in their 70s, and if I looked at them and was like, well, gosh, you guys should have moved your furniture. I'm like,
yeah,
I'd be
I
pissed
see.
as a
I see
as
what
a
you're
child.
saying.
I'm like, I don't think so, man. I'm not asking my parents, and nobody should ask my parents in their
And
70s to move their
I
furniture.
think that there is
so
that
that's why I'm
aspect.
making
Yeah,
that. That's just why I'm making that clarification.
you're correct. But they could.
They are quite fit.
No. I don't mean
Absolutely.
not your parents. The insurance company could. If they wanted to. They probably not, especially elderly people. They're not going to do that because then it becomes poor claims practices, I think.
Yeah, bad faith.
Which is a
But
term
again,
that insurance companies don't like. Poor claims practices,
I
by
feel
the
like
way.
that's a little weedy also, where I don't know too many times that that's been the case where they have had the hole in the roof and somebody didn't scoot furniture away and they're like, well, we're not going to pay for that because you didn't scoot the furniture.
Yeah.
But again, the issue is, did you call somebody to plug the hole? Did you call someone to get the water out of your house? Did you do any necessary steps or potential steps once you were made aware of the issue? Or did you sit on it and then just let 3 inches of water hang out in your house for a little longer? Like, that's going to cause a lot more issues.
Oh, of course.
So,
it's going to cost a whole lot more too to fix because now you got to worry about mold and all sorts of things.
Microbial growth.
That's right.
Unless they are mold certified, even the water restoration people must call it microbial growth. And isn't that just fun to say? I feel like it is. Say it with me. Microbial growth.
It's crazy.
So fun. Hashtag.
It's crazy.
Anyway. Okay. So that's going to be your home situation. I did have clients that actually still in the homeowners, their home was broken into. And so that's not why I'm laughing, but their home was broken into. They were out. Thank goodness they were not home. And they got home. One was calling 911 and the other was calling me. And I'm like, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Which I love that. Like that to me, that's the best feeling. Like that's when you know you've got people's, like I feel violated. We're calling the police and we're calling you, Steph. And I mean, again, I hate that it happened, but I do love.
And I had a client I had a client that called me one time during a hailstorm. It was baseball size hail, and she had a new car.
Oh.
And she was stuck on a highway in stopped traffic. She had a sunroof, and the hail was coming through the sunroof, her front windshield, her back windshield, her side windows. And she calls me frantic. I could not even only reason I knew it was her because I recognized the number.
Right.
But she was frantic, beside herself, scared to death because of the hailstorm coming through.
Well, at that point, I mean, she's just terrified.
Obviously, the insurance company bought her a new car, but because it was destroyed. I mean, like
if
literally
it's coming through windshields like that, then yeah, you're
literally
done.
destroyed with baseball size hail.
Yeah.
And so I stayed on the phone with her. You know, she was beside herself. Not a lot I can do except just stay calm for her and walk her through it. You know, make sure you got your purse over your head so you don't get hurt. Try to get down the floorboard, you know, things like that. Yeah. You got anything else you can throw over the top of you? Because, you know, it's not like you're in an accident where everything's crushed. You're just worried about glass and getting hit by baseball size hail.
It's getting hit. Yeah. At that point, you're getting hit in the head with a baseball.
Yeah. But the car isn't going to become an accordion.
Correct.
So just try to get as low as you can underneath your dash, whatever it is. Lean your chairs back, get in the back seat, whatever you got to do to get underneath them. So I was just helped her through that process, and you know, stayed a client for a long time until she moved away.
And that's, again, those are the stories, and just the kind of the personal wins. Obviously, that means something awful has happened to our clients, but the fact that they trust us like that. One thing I did want to say, another little note, and we'll revisit this on the what happens once the insurance company comes out. Will they accept the hail damage, not accept, and depends on the just climate of claims and everything. But if you're there at your house, what I would recommend, if you are home and you see the hail coming down and it's pounding, take a video. Take a video of the hail outside. Make sure it's quiet so they can hear it hitting your roof. Show what's on the ground. Show your car getting hit if your car is outside. Just record and show what's happening. And I say that because at that point, and then do show something to kind of prove that it is in fact your home. So don't just like stick it out the window. Just try to, that way it can't be disputed, but
maybe something in the living room. Just show something in the house.
Like the number on your, even just stepping out and doing your front door or something. But,
well, you could show your kitchen. Doesn't matter.
That's true. Yeah. Cause you can still see it's the kitchen. You're right. Because at that point, oh no, yeah, no, well, it didn't hit your house. Well, that's really interesting because I have about 5 minutes showing golf ball size hail smacking my home. So do you want to have another conversation now? And that really, like, that will help and come into play. And at that point,
it's a whole other
thing. But that is because we're talking about that, like when it's happening, if you are home, record. We're all about technology. Everyone always has their phones. We take videos of the stupidest things. Take a video of that.
You know, going along with that, let's talk about a different type of claim, theft or fire with major loss of property.
Oh, so that's
I tell clients to take video. They're like, how do I make sure take video of stuff and then upload it to a cloud?
Yep. You don't have to send it to the insurance company. Just walk through your house and keep record of it. So I think that wraps up kind of the hail damage, and we touched on some other things, theft and water damage, things like that. The next one, the second most common, and you touched on it. Well, no, you didn't, because it was car accident. So the next most common claim that we're going to have our clients make is going to be car accident. What do you do? And I thought about this. The reason I was thinking about the claims, I was just talking to my cousin, and she's like, hey, will you just review my policy? I know, Todd did a really great job and I feel good about it, but I just want to make sure everything's good. So we were doing that, and I was like, oh, and if you are in an accident, let's talk about that. And so, number one, recommendations that I would give: take a picture of the license plate of the other car. Take a picture of the damage or a lack of damage to the other car.
Correct.
but you're taking a picture of the other car. And I would, again, if you can do the video, I like the video and pictures. So you can do video and then take the pictures while you're recording, because they are two different things and just whatever, but walk around the entire vehicle.
Because there's been times where
they claim damage that's not related.
Yeah, they claim damage that was not related.
Yep.
And if you're the adjuster, you don't know any different sometimes. Sometimes you don't know. A good adjuster can figure some of that stuff out, I shouldn't say a very experienced adjuster can figure some of that stuff out. But the reality is, yes, that happens where people try to make claim for existing damage or something else.
Here's the thing. If there is a possible question of who could be at fault, if it's a situation where it's maybe you guys are both changing lanes, or just if it's not a straight up rear end accident, essentially, and you are on a public road, if you're in a parking lot, cops aren't going to come out. They're like, oh, thanks so much. Private
Generally
property, can't do anything.
Yeah, generally
can't do
not.
anything. And if nobody,
in some cities they won't come out unless there's an injury.
Yeah. And so I'm a little iffy on the police calling. Pros and cons to that. A police report, please understand, unless they are a witness to the accident, that police report is written up and it is after the fact.
It's just a piece of information.
Now, I will tell you, so again, having been a claims adjuster in my former life, I'll tell you, I would use the argument, they weren't a witness. If it did not go in my insured's favor and we didn't think we were at fault, I would say exactly that. I'm like, unless they witnessed it, that's an after the fact assessment. That is all that is. Now, and then if it went in my insured's favor, I'm like, well, the police report says that your guy's guilty. So you can play that game both ways, but ultimately it really is. If they're not a witness, they're not a witness. So it's somebody's opinion. And obviously pictures of your damage are going to be taken by either the insured, like our insurance company's adjusters, or the body shop, depending on how that works. But there's a lot of times, and what people don't realize in claims, where the damage is tells a story, tells a huge story. And so we can usually sniff out when somebody's full of it, just based on, because when you're lying about what happened, then the damage doesn't usually quite add up with what's being seen.
Well, yeah, because you may have a ding at 30 inches. You said somebody hit you, but their bumper only goes up 18 inches.
Yeah, just
wait a minute. Like, there's a disconnect here, right?
The math isn't mathing, but and then I would call your agent. Is before you make a claim, if you think it's somebody else's fault, I would also say, don't call your insurance company. Now, if we don't have a rental,
call their insurance company.
Call their insurance company.
That's what I tell my client. Call their insurance company. Don't call your insurance company.
No.
Call theirs. Let them figure it out.
What I will say though is, if you need a rental car immediately, that is a different ballgame.
Yes.
Because the other insurance company, it's not that they're trying to be crappy or they're trying to act in bad faith, but if they've only spoken to you, they have a due diligence to speak to their insured first, just like you would want your insurance company to call you and verify before they're like, oh, sure, Mr. Joe Smith, we have no idea who you are. We're going to go ahead and put you in a rental at the expense of our insured. You don't want that.
If you need a rental and there is a question about it,
or even if it's an immediate need.
Yeah, just get the rental, keep the receipts, and if they accept responsibility, they'll pick up the receipts. They'll reimburse you for anything you're out of pocket.
Oh, that's different. Okay, so you can do it either way then.
Yeah.
You can either go get your own rental, or at that point you are forced to make a claim.
Yeah, you could be.
So it could be one or the other.
But if you can afford the rental,
some people aren't able.
I know, but
and
if
it's a different price.
I know.
Yeah,
you're correct. It is a different price. But
and Steven wouldn't even be able to do that. So if that happened to Steven at 24, he couldn't even do that.
No.
But
correct.
yes, but I think that
And
I
that's,
was saying go straight to the insurance, but you're right. If you can afford it and you can say, hey, we're going to hedge these 3 days to give the insurance company a chance to do the right thing, and then they can just take over my rental agreement, then I think that's a great tip.
yeah, because it's quick, it's easy if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, then, that's where you have an agent that knows you, that can help talk you through that
Just talk it
process.
through. Hey, how do you feel about this? Is this
Yes,
something we can do?
exactly.
Well, no, I don't have that money for
Yeah.
great. You know what? Let's go ahead and let's get a claim started then. And
Yeah.
we got to get you in that rental.
Yep.
Or awesome. Well, go ahead. Understand. Don't go rent the Mercedes if you're driving a Miata. And by the way, they're probably not going to pay for the Mercedes anyway.
Probably not.
So that's going to be on you, but
No.
okay, so those are kind of the tips if something happens, and then yeah, just give us a call.
Call your
Hey,
agent.
this happened.
That's
Just
the
call
thing.
your
Call your agent. A good agent will be able to help you think through process of what works. There is a general process, like you said. Take pictures, get information. In the state of Texas, you have to exchange information. We ran into that the other day. A client called me and says, "Hey, they're asking for my information, and they hit me." Well, the state of Texas says you have to share information. So just give them the information. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
But here's what I would do.
I'd also get a picture of them.
Yeah.
Include that in the video.
Yeah, exactly.
And the damage photos.
But here's what I would do on top of all that, because I told them that too. As soon as you're driving away, I would call and make a claim against their insurance company.
Interesting.
First one, be the first person to make the claim, because, they hit you, and it was obvious they were T-boned. And so it was pretty obvious, but it wasn't a T-bone. It was so bad they couldn't drive the vehicle away.
Right.
But it was certainly a T-bone. And I'm like, call their insurance company, make a claim.
I mean, yeah, you're going to end up making the claim anyway. Yeah. So yeah, you can.
Don't call yours. I said, you're not telling,
and that's the thing.
You're not telling yours about this. You tell them. They'll find out about it later, and maybe you will have to make a claim later. But right now, get it on record that you made a claim against the other person.
I would also say, and I don't know your opinions on this, but if you're calling, because I've had this with clients where I've sat there and we've been on the phone making the claim together, and it's like it is the other person's fault. And again, I was very fortunate. I worked for an amazing company, and there are horror stories about claims adjusters, just like there are about insurance agents, but just sleazy, bad faith. I know, just all the things. But where I worked, we were preached, do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Don't pay any more than you're supposed to, for damn sure.
But pay all that you should.
But pay all that you should, and take care of everyone who needs. Like that is what we do. Because at the same time, even if it's paying somebody else, not our insured, that is protecting our insured. So just do the right thing. So I was very fortunate there. But what I will say to that, to kind of talk out of both sides, that is not the case with every insurance company.
No, and the one that we really don't like, they brag about having a 30% less claims payout than everybody else.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I also, it's just, anyway, so that's a little sleazy. So knowing that there are like, oh, well, we're going to try to maybe get around this and either not pay for the accident or not pay for the entire amount of the accident, because you can share liability. So they can deem where you were 20% at fault. And
in Texas, yes.
Yes, and the other person was 80%, so then they're only paying 80% of the damage. So
where's the other 20?
Maybe it's a 51 rule, actually.
Well, you can just split. You can split fault in the state of Texas.
You can split fault, but I am now. I'll have to look back at that. It's been
I don't remember
so
what
long.
it is, because I don't run into it very often. Most claims on auto are pretty, I shouldn't say cut and dry, because that's not correct. But I don't have a split very often. And I think you run into the split, in my experience, you run into the split really with the companies that you're going to have problems with claims anyway.
Right.
So
when your premiums are lower.
Yes.
But hang on, but I just want to say this, because we handled multiple states. But Texas could even be a 51-49 rule where if you're at least 51%, then you have to eat the entire claim.
No, not in Texas.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, that could be different states then. But
Yes.
So
No,
okay, so perfect.
because you
So
can
anyway.
split fault in Texas.
Okay, I don't. It's been so long.
It could
since
be
I've
an
done that.
80-20 type deal.
Well, I know they can assign different percentages. I just don't know about paying out. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so those would be the recommendations. Oh, what I was going to say with our long-windedness, I pulled a Dennis. I know I don't know what's happening. But when you're making that claim and they're like, oh, well, who's your insurance company? Gosh, I just can't remember. I don't have that information in front of me right now.
Yeah.
Are you insured? Well, gosh, yes, I am. Well, who's your insurance company? What's your policy number? It's just, I don't have that information in front of me right now. They don't need it. They don't need it because what are they going to do? They're going to get off the phone and they're going to make a claim against your insurance company. No, you don't have to tell them your insurance company. If you have
You don't
insurance,
have to tell who your insurance company.
the third party, the other driver's insurance company.
Oh, yeah.
That's not information. They probably have systems now where they can look it up and find it.
Yes, you can find it very
And they
easily.
can find it. But the point is,
But you don't have to tell them.
You don't have to give them a layup.
Now, if you're in the accident, like I said, you're supposed to share the information. So it may be on the police report. If there was a police report,
And that's the thing.
the other person may have shared it with the insurance company. But if they ask you to verify it, you don't have to verify that.
You don't have to. So,
Yeah. To
anyway,
my knowledge,
and
you don't. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, you don't have to verify.
I don't
it.
believe that's a law.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing that we could do to combat somebody saying, I don't want to give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Because it quite honestly, in the state of Texas, that has no bearing on whether or not you're either at fault or not
Yeah.
at fault. In the state of Louisiana, it's a no pay to play. Or it's a pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have liability limits, at least the minimum liability limits, and you're sitting at a red light and somebody comes up and smashes you from behind, cannot collect on an insurance claim.
Well,
You can sue them, but you cannot collect on an insurance claim. So anyway, but that's not Texas. So that's why I'm like, yeah, you don't have to give it to them.
no. It's
Those will be the two.
in different states. You're going to have different laws. I mean, we're in a few different number of different states, but we're talking specifically more about Texas right now. But
But
it's going to be
for the nitty gritty, but the premise of it is the same.
The premise of it's the
basics
same.
of it are all the same.
Exactly. But yeah, claims are tough. They're, when I say tough, I mean, it is just, it could be nerve wracking. And depending on the claim, it could be even more nerve wracking, right? So, like the claim that I had where a motorcycle rider went through the back of a CRV and was killed. And the lady, our client driving the CRV, got out, looked in her back seat, and there's a dead body.
That's
And
bad day.
then the family of the motorcycle driver who was on drugs and speeding, their family
Obviously went through a
sued our client.
And, this is
And
why
they
you
were
have
nervous. And I'm
insurance.
like, don't worry about it. Just let it go
Yeah.
because the insurance company will take care of it. And they did. And unfortunately, the insurance company did it in the way that they paid out, which I didn't like, but it was cheaper than going to court. I understand why they did it. But they still did it. I didn't like it. But the insured, they got to walk away and not worry about anything. It was done.
Right.
It was just done. So I get it.
That's
But anyway,
Yeah.
Well, we're coming actually to a close.
we are. The last thing I would say just on the auto
Mm-hmm.
is because everything that we were talking about was mainly collision.
Mm-hmm.
But to talk about the comprehensive part, which is other than collision, so which includes hitting animals, things like that. Again, if hail is coming down on your car, go ahead and have the video. That way nobody can come back and say,
Hail
well,
is
that's old
comprehensive.
hail.
Fire
That's
is comprehensive.
Fire's pretty easy though. Thing got lit on fire. Like, I don't know, there's a little charcoal
Theft
in
is
here.
comprehensive.
Yes, but if you hit an animal, so because the damage an animal can do can look like a collision.
Yes, and there is some companies. If you say I hit a deer, that's a collision claim.
That's
But if you say a deer ran out in front of me and I could not, or whatever it may be, you have to be careful how you phrase it.
call your agent.
Correct. That's what I was getting at.
Yep.
If you have something like that happen, call your agent.
Love that.
And let them help you with you're not going to lie, because if you lie, you're going to get in trouble. But sometimes you have to learn how to phrase. You have to know how to phrase things in order to get
the correct outcome.
The correct outcome.
And the other
but
part,
never lie about it.
Right. And what I would say is, if Bambi isn't moving, go ahead and take a little headshot, a little snappy poo. And then if Bambi tries to get up and waddle away, then just try to get any picture and any sort of remnants of DNA left behind, maybe. Whatever that may look like. Because it could be raining, it could be whatever, and then any fur or blood gets washed away, and then they're like, it looks like you just hit a fence post. You're like, no, I swear to God, Bambi's mom is no more. So just doing anything you can, trying, and again, if you just hit an animal, it means you're in a car accident, something very bad has happened, adrenaline's going, you could be panicking. If kids are in the car especially, then there's definite panic. So just try to have a plan, knowing, hey, if anything happens, I know I've got to have my phone. Let's try to get pictures and get proof and do what we need to do. So that was just the last thing I wanted to say. And now we'll wrap us up.
All right. Well, that is another episode done.
Done, baby.
Done of Insurance Gone Wild. If you have questions, please give us a call at 817-753-0093. That is our phone number, or we have an email address now.
Oh my God, we're so big.
Yes, we're huge. Contact at igwpodcast.com. igwpodcast.com. If you have questions, we'll try to address them. We'll try to address them here. So anyway, thank you all for joining us.